YouTubers. We're just riding around the pasture today. Thought I'd do a quick video. That was a shake. We were on YouTube, or not YouTube, on Facebook today, on the PSSM group of Facebook. Facebook's good for a lot of things. Getting in touch with people who are dealing with the same disorder that we deal with is always really helpful. So I encourage people to share on my page what they think works, what doesn't work. Share on my page what you like about and what you don't like about, or stuff you've tried. Anyways, so that's why we started the YouTube channel, was so that we could also share. One thing that off of the topic we started on, one thing that I did learn from an article I researched is that grass content the sugar content in grass is supposedly lower at night, and they did a pretty extensive research subject about this, and the reason for it, I guess, based on the research that they did, was that the sugar content is lower at night because the plant isn't doing photosynthesis. Right now, the plant is doing photosynthesis because of the sunlight. It is producing making its plant food, and the bugs are really bad, so they're bothering Sweet Pea pretty badly. So we'll trot a little here if she'll let me. Come on. She's like, no, I'm not feeling it. Oop, that's because we're pooping. We are pooping. That'll make you feel better. That'll make you feel better, Missy. The bugs aren't going to, though. Man, we sprayed all kinds of stuff for them. But anyways, also it's June, so the grass has lost a little bit of its potency, I guess, and it's not growing as hard, so it's not got such a high sugar content. So, but it's helped her in leaps and bounds. So I turn her out at nighttime, and then I bring her in 3 in the morning, 3 or 4 in the morning, which means you got to get up and put her back. But it's a good sacrifice that I've made, and it's working, and I can tell a difference in her already. We got off the soybean oil, which I also have seen a difference in her. She's just kind of come back to life with this cameline oil. Darn bugs. The cameline oil has really, really helped her too. And the extra vitamin E that I reintroduced into the diet, I upped the vitamin E level of her diet, and it seems to be doing a good job. She's got something bugging her here. I don't know what, if it's her face or her belly or where. But anyhow, so those are some of the things we're trying. The Piper's playing with the goats over there. Those are some of the things we're trying. And this Facebook, though, somebody asked, was there any legal repercussions for people who knowingly sell horses that are carriers of HYPP or who are PSSM positive. And not that I know of, have there been any legal cases that have resulted in compensation to the buyer from the seller for knowingly selling a horse that has the disorder, because it's so new nobody knows about this disorder most of the time. And second of all, how do you prove that they didn't know about it? They can claim they never knew anything no such knowledge of it. You'd have to be able to prove without a reasonable doubt that they knew about it. And most of the time, they play the stupid card. We all know they're not stupid, they're dishonest. And they play the stupid card, and they say, go ahead and prove it. But you get stuck with a horse that, for the most part, is a special needs horse. And then it really pisses me off because it's very dishonest. And there are a lot of breeders who knowingly know that they've got these horses and they're still breeding them because they went in the show arena, or they look pretty, they're wonderful halter horses, they're going to win in the show arena, and they're going to make you money. So what's the difference if you have a debilitating disease that's going to make it harder to care for these horses, and it's going to be more expensive to care and give these horses the proper care that they need? So the fact that it happens is really bad, and it's very irritating because it happened to me. I had no idea Sweet Pea was sick. And I fully know that the person who sold this horse to me effing knew that there was PSSM in this line and that she had it. She knew it because she had a stallion that had PSSM. And I'm not going to say any names, but she knew it. And she bred these horses and didn't care. Well, AQHA in 2015 passed a rule, and I'm not sure about the Paint Horse Association or the Appaloosa Horse Association, but I would encourage them to follow suit if they haven't already. I haven't read their rule books, but the AQHA finally got to a point where they're acknowledging these disorders, and the 5-panel test came into play. And now any horse from 2015 on who is a breeding stud, and I'm not sure if I think it also entails if you breed them at all. It's got to be on the breeding papers or on the stud papers if they have PSSM, or that they've had the test and that they've been are we taking a break, Sweet Pea? That they've been 5-panel tested. And so, good on AQHA for finally acknowledging and making these breeders, come on, what are we doing? She says we're done. The pony ride's over, she says. I am taking a break. I'll let you take a break. That or you're going to pee, one of the two. Are we peeing? Yep, we're peeing. We pooped and now we're peeing. When you pee, you should lean up for them and put your weight more on their front so you can get off their back so that they can go ahead and stretch out and pee. It's a nice, polite thing to do for your horse. Yeah, she says now we can go. I just had to pee. They wised up and said, hey, we want you to test these horses now when you're breeding them. But the problem is, anybody previous to 2015, if they haven't tested their stud horse, I don't know if if the rule book didn't really, from what I could read, didn't really say that they had to go ahead and test them if they're going to breed them. So, I'm not sure where their stance is on that because I didn't research it. But the only repercussion you could do is you could turn them into the Breed Association and say that you think that they knew that the horse had the disorder and sold them anyways, not divulging it. Especially, I think this lady bought this stud horse in the hopes of starting her own breeding program. Come to find out he's PSSM1, type 1 like Sweet Pea, and she can't, I can't say that she can't, I'm saying I strongly advise that she gets the horse gilded, and he's a gelding, and she find another stud that's in 5-panel test negative. I would encourage her to do that instead of breeding him anyways. She bought him to be a breeding stallion, and come to find out he's got the disorder. I didn't know Sweet Pea had it, and conveniently her little book went missing between August and the December that I bought her. I had to find it out on Facebook from Jan Taylor that she came from a stud called Predestined, who was the known carrier and who sired multiple Appaloosas that have this disorder, and most of them are gilded and or are not being bred any longer, which is why you won't find very many of them anymore. Sweetway was like the second to third last full crop from him before he died. And it's pathetic. If you know the horse has it, gild them and let's end it. Stop breeding it, and then we won't have it. I love Sweet Pea to death, and she'd make a wonderful mother. She wants nothing more in the world than to be a mama horse. She loves being around babies. She loves foals, and it breaks my heart, but I'm not going to breed her because I know I'll have another one, and I can't do that. I cannot knowingly hurt an animal in that way, knowing that they're going to have to deal with this. And oh yeah, some of them aren't symptomatic. People say, well, that's bullshit. They're symptomatic, you just don't know it. You just haven't seen it. So don't tell me your horse ain't symptomatic. Anyhow, come on, Susie. Anyhow, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of people breeding these horses and getting away with it. You know, it's ridiculous. Why would you do that? But there's no safeguards. There's nobody suing anybody, or nobody's getting any compensation for these breeders doing it and I think it's a shame. And if you know that you've been cheated in that way, I would sue them. I would take them to small claims court and say, you know what? You sold this horse knowingly, knowing that he had a disability. That's why you had his price so low. And he has a disorder. And I think that you should give me back some of my money on him. You know, you should be compensated for that. But I fully believe that you should be. But that's not always how it happens. But from this point on, I learned a lesson. Those of us who have this happen to them, you either keep the horse and treat him good and give them the support and support them in their dietary needs and support them in what you're doing, or you end up selling them. And if you end up selling them, they're not going to be treated very well. They'll probably end up at slaughter, or they'll be used in the show arena till they can't be used anymore. Or they'll get a fortunate roll of the dice and get somebody who wants to put the money into keeping them and making them healthy and filling and meeting their needs. So, I mean, that's the roll of the dice for these horses. And that's the reality, and it's sad. That's why I urge everybody who's know that their horse is coming up positive on a test, gild the damn thing. Stop breeding them. Stop breeding horses with HYPP. Stop breeding horses with PSSM. You know, these two disorders, they can live with it, but they don't live very well with it. You know, what is their quality of life? Or most of the breeders just don't give a shit because they're all about the fucking money. Excuse my language. They're all about the freaking money, so they don't care about the horse. As long as they can make a couple $1,000s off of it, they don't care. But that's the problem, and we need to not allow it. And we need to be, as breed programs and breeding associations, we need to put a stop to this. We need to stand up and say, no, we're not going to allow any horses who are bred and has the disorder to be registered. That would put an end to it. Then everybody would stop breeding these horses. That would put an end to it in a hurry. I'm using my leg to gesture to Suki. That would put into this breeding these horses in a hurry. If all of the breed associations said, no, if you knowingly breed a horse who has the disorder, and that means they can't be registered, or they have to have a registration of non-breeding, which means any foal or anything that comes out of them cannot be registered. Make up a rule like that. You'd watch all of these nasty genetic disorders would go away. All of these ones that we know about and all of these ones that we can test for would go away. They would quit breeding these horses, and we wouldn't have the issue any longer. But as long as there's money involved, and as long as we don't stand up against it and we don't take a more activist role against it, then they're just going to keep breeding them. But I push, that's my soapbox, I push that the breed associations say, hey, we're not going to allow breeding of these horses anymore. And if you breed them, they're not going to be registered with us. And they're not, and then it'll go away. It'll end. It'll end. You know, there's a difference between genetic ones that you know and ones that are disorders that pop up on their own, which are just a disease, you know. But I think the 5-panel test I will never buy. I'm not going to spend, and I didn't spend thousands of dollars on Sweet Pea, thank goodness. She's my soulmate and the love of my life, and I'm glad she came into my life and my world. But I am not going to go spend thousands of dollars on a nice horse. You're a nice horse, Sweet Pea. A nice horse without a 5-panel test. And if you go to that breeder and you say, yeah, I'm interested in buying a horse from you, or a filly or a foal, colt from you, filly or colt, you know, yearling from you, have you had the stud 5-panel tested? Have you had the mare 5-panel tested? Have you had the baby tested? Would you mind if I took some hair sample and sent it away to get it tested to make sure that the horse is negative before I buy him? If that breeder looks at you and says, no, I don't want you to do that, there's your sign. Right there is your red flag. Well, then I shouldn't buy a horse from you. If they're not wanting to be completely open with you, you'll know in a minute that they're being dishonest. If you say that to them and you say, hey, I want them tested, and I will do that next time. Next time I buy a horse. And I did that with that little bay mare that I sold. I bought her for $300, so I figured the $120 test wasn't a big deal. So I tested her, and she came up 5-panel negative. And that was a good point, too. When I sold that mare, you knew that she was 5-panel negative because I had the test. And she wasn't registered. She was registered quarter pony, but she wasn't with one of the big breed associations. But she was tested with animal genetics for any disorders. So, yeah. So that's my soapbox on that, is that there isn't anything you can really do but take the breeder to small claims court and try and prove that they knew, and have evidence and have a good lawyer, and then yeah, we'd start seeing people get repercussions, and maybe they'd stop doing it. Right now nobody's really policing it, other than AQHA did put the rule in there, but nobody's policing it like they should be, in my opinion. So the adults in the house.
Come on, you need a drink. I don't know what you
I think that water's looking pretty scummy, girl. We're gonna have to change it today. But anyhow, so I'm gonna end that video, and so that's my soapbox that you can go ahead and eat, sweet pea, that I just can't believe that we're not being more tough on these people who are doing this, because it's pretty devastating to a horse who has to deal with it, and an owner who loves her and has to deal with it too every day. So anyways, well, I'm going to end that video there. You're welcome to leave comments and like our videos, and we will see you next time. Love your horses and love your goats, wherever the goats are.